If you're an attorney that struggles with getting home in time for dinner, or taking a vacation without your cell phone and your laptop attached to your hip, or maybe you just can't figure out why you don't make more money based on your education level and the service that you give to your clients. Maybe you're an attorney who wonders, why can't my law firm operate without my constant presence? Or finally, maybe you're thinking to yourself, I wonder if I can ever retire from my firm. Maybe I'm going to have to work right to my dying day, like so many other attorneys before me have done. Well, hi, my name is Richard James, and I created EA Nation so that you could learn how to build a law firm that supports your lifestyle as compared to undermining your lifestyle. EA Nation stands for Entrepreneurial Attorney Nation, and we join together with other like-minded entrepreneurial attorneys to unpack the secrets to how to do just that. And I want to help you build your law firm better, one system at a time. So, without further ado, let's get started with this next episode.
So today we're talking about the 7 steps to maximizing profit, the secrets you must know to avoid the cash crunch and put money in the bank today, right? So that's what we're attempting to do. I'm going to try to show you something that's happening real time in the thoughts and minds of the world that we live in. And again, this was originally designed as an interview with Blaine and myself, and so I had some points in here where I asked Blaine some questions, so I may very well go ahead and ask you folks some questions, and you can answer them, and they can be rhetorical too. It's no big deal, but you know, you want to go ahead and feedback through the chat feature. The chat can be found down on your control bar on Zoom, usually on the More section. I think the shortcut is Alt-H if you don't know where the chat button is, but you can go into the More section and go to the chat button. And then if you have a question or you really want to ask something, you don't want to go in the chat and you want to raise your hand, you always have the opportunity in the participants area. I believe you can go ahead and you can raise your hand and I can take a look at it that way. So without further ado, let's keep going. So again, I'm Richard James, and today we're going to work on how to get you some cash in the bank today. That's my goal. And so let's talk about it again. For those of you that are just joining us, this was going to be an interview. Blaine got called away on a family emergency. So rather than being an interview, it's going to be just the expert. So some of the slides may have questions on them as if Blaine was asking me a question. So I'm going to sit in 2 roles today. So if it feels a little awkward or clunky, just, you know why, right? It's because there's nobody asking these questions. I'm going to be asking them of myself. So here we go. On today's call, I promise that you're going to discover a couple of things, 3 things to be, in fact. I'm going to show you the 7 proven techniques for putting more cash in the bank today than you've ever thought possible. A lot of attorneys I work with that I meet for the very first time struggle with being profitable, struggle with making cash in the bank, and I'm going to teach you the strategies today that I used when I built the law firm with my own 2 hands, and then we're going to 7 of them to be exact. So we're going to go through 7, not strategies, but techniques. So I'm kind of giving you micro techniques that you can use. And then there's one thing that your competition doesn't do that if you do it, you can be a hero to your clients. And we're going to talk about that. And that's the second promise I make. We're going to go into that and what that is today. And then 3, I'm going to give you a step-by-step guide to avoid the dreaded cash flow crunch. Again, most what I hear from new attorneys who come to our world for the first time is that they're struggling with income at some level. They want to make more, they don't have enough, or they don't have any, and developing a system for that is vital. And so that's what we're covering today. And the open Q&A is going to be at the end. So at the end, we'll go through this step at a time. So let's keep moving forward. So who's going to benefit most from this webcast? Well, first of all, I've decided in 2018 that I'm going to put more of myself out there. You know, what I used to believe, it's a funny story. For years, I believed that the information that I had was really the gold, and I'd learned these secrets that I could share with you attorneys, and you could, make the most out of them. And I still believe that to be true, but I don't believe it's enough anymore. I've now witnessed what it's like for attorneys to work in peer groups. And so I've made a decision and a commitment to put myself out there to really share the information and not look at it as you're going to pay for the information. I'm really looking at, in our world, is when people become clients of ours, in addition to the information, they're really They're really paying for a membership to be in a community, which is something that's unique to law. And we found that to work. And so I've decided to put myself out there in 2018 and share more of my information with the attorney world at large. And we'll continue to drive more traffic to these webinars that I'll do every month. I'm going to try to do one every month for everybody. And I'm going to cover the really important topics and the things that you need to know about. But the people that will benefit from this the most, this specific one, is there are really three types of attorneys that I come across, and that's whether you're in my client world right now, or you're a member of our programs, or you're a guest here today. You're in a couple of three camps. One, you might be struggling because you don't have enough time. You know, you work too many hours a week. You can't get home in time for dinner. You can't take a weekend off regularly without feeling guilty because the work's getting behind. You certainly can't take a vacation without your cell phone and your laptop attached to your hip. And that may be you, and if it is, I understand, I've been there. But systems is the key to this, and this particular system is one of the first systems you need to know to be able to break free from that. The second thing that you need to, the reason people come to us, or that I find them in our world, is because they're struggling with money. Either they don't make enough money, they literally just don't make enough money. The average attorney in America makes $48,000 a year, according to the last statistics I read. And you know, they went into debt oftentimes $200,000+ to get through law school. The fact that I've got a 19-year-old son who's an entrepreneur by nature, and he's likely going to make that much money from his dorm room this year. I'm not bragging on my kid, but he doesn't have any professional licenses or anything. I think it's really sad that somebody in the legal seat sitting with a law degree who can help people to the level you can help people, really, in my opinion, are the heroes of your communities, can't earn the type of living you need to earn so that you can have some freedom and some lifestyle for you and your family. Some folks, attorneys that I meet, they're making enough money, but they're just not making the profit they need to make. Like, most of their money comes in a salary. And so they just don't feel like they're making the kind of money they deserve, or they're working really hard to build their business, but there's never a profit at the end. They just make a high level salary. And that's okay, I guess, but really business is to be profitable. And the reason we want to be profitable is because we want to help more people. I want to be profitable so I can pour some of my profits back in so I can attract more attorneys and I can help more of you. You want to be profitable so you can pour your profits back in, or a percentage of them back in, so that you can help more clients with the needs that you have. And then finally, the people that I find, the attorneys that I find that are attracted to us in the last camp, is that they don't have a system in place to retire with. And so they want to sell their practice, or they want to succeed their practice to somebody, or maybe they want to have somebody else run their practice for them. But one, that they struggle with having the money to be able to do that because they can't see how they can afford another salary to bring in, or they don't have the systems in place to make their firm valuable enough or attractive to a buyer. And so they're struggling with that. And so maximizing profit is a huge step in the direction of moving your firm to one level to the next. So those are the three fundamental reasons why I found that attorneys find us, and those are the people who are going to really benefit most from this role. Let's put it this way: if you get all of your business by referrals, you're paid, you know, at above average fee. You have no issues with getting paid whatsoever for the fees that you charge. You make more profit than you can handle. You take as many vacations as you want. You're home in time for dinner, and you have your weekends free, and you have a plan for retirement. Then this kind of isn't, you've got it. I'm glad you're here. Welcome. I'd love to meet you because I don't meet many who have that all together. I think somebody would argue that there's probably more of that I need to have together in my own life, because running a business is messy and it's always changing. So hopefully that everybody here could benefit from this today. Okay, we like to get started the same way at all times. If you can't see me, I don't see a lot of you with your video. So I see that you're on, but I don't see a lot that have video. Let me see. Yeah, really everybody's dialed in. So not a lot of video. This is a live webcast. You can sign in via webcast, so you can see my screen. I do have screen shares up, and you can see me if you're on a video or you have a computer screen. You should be able to see me. So I can't see what's going to happen right now, but I'm going to ask you to go ahead and take an oath. There you go. Hey, go ahead and we're going to take an oath, right? Because I believe that while I work with attorneys all the time, and here's what I know about attorneys. They all believe that their practice area is special. They all believe that their practice area, what I'm going to teach now, isn't relevant to them, or maybe relevant to somebody else, but for whatever different reason, it's not relevant to them. And I get it. I get all the reasons why their business is different or unique. But I just ask every time we do one of these presentations to momentarily suspend disbelief, and just for the next hour, bear with me and just take an oath that says that you're going to kind of buy into what it is I'm telling you today, just for this period of time. And so we're going to take an oath. I don't have to hear you do it, but you can see me do it if you're on. I'm going to raise my right hand. You can raise your right hand if you want to, and you can repeat after me. It sounds corny, but trust me, it's important. My business is not different from yours. It's so important that you get that my business, I have now, listen, if you know my story, you know I've owned insurance companies, I've had funeral homes, I've had foreign currency exchange company, I had a pet supply company, I've built a law firm from scratch, I've built this consulting firm from scratch, and a myriad of other little businesses along the way that I've helped or personally built. And I can tell you that the fundamental thread that runs through those businesses is absolutely the same. And so the thing that I'm about to teach you today is the same for all the businesses that I've ever worked in. And it's true of all of the things that I teach. And so that's why I have us take this oath every time. So I hope that didn't feel too creepy. Trust me, there's no Kool-Aid can be slipped through the computer screen for anybody. But that's the basis of what I want to make sure you understand. So why is it important that we're going to learn this now? All right, that's good. So let's talk about that a little bit. So the reason that this is important now is because it's timely. The information I'm about to give you, the reason I chose this topic first is because of the time of year. So this is where I would ask, I guess, Blaine, if he was on the call. And again, for those of you that is just joining, I know it's quarter after the hour. If you're just joining me, I noticed a few more people came in. This was supposed to be an interview. Blaine was going to interview me. Blaine got called away on a family emergency. So for those of you that pray, prayers are welcome. His wife got taken to the emergency room, and I got a text. I think that she's okay, but you know that what that's like. You go to an emergency room, it's going to take forever. So he's not going to be on this call, and I certainly pray that everything's going to be all right there. But anyway, I'm going to ask you. So what do you think is on the minds? And you can type it in the chat. Again, if you don't know where the chat is, over in the more section, you can go to the chat section. What do you think is on the minds of every American who earns an income right around this time of year? Go ahead and type it in. What's on the mind? Yeah, taxes. Okay, we got it. Thanks, Michael. Yeah, you got it. Taxes is on everybody's mind, right? It's just, they're bummed. I mean, if you've watched any sports at all over the weekend and these crazy commercials from TurboTax, we're not going to go into that, but talk about outrageous marketing, right? They've got some really outrageous marketing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I highly recommend you look it up for the entertainment value alone. Go ahead and YouTube TurboTax's outrageous marketing. For right now, but TurboTax, H&R Block, they're all like riddling the airways, both on radio and TV and billboards and newspapers, and they're really just blanketing the airways with messages about tax. So tax is on everybody's mind, and in marketing, one of the things that we want to make sure that we're doing is we're having the conversation with our client or our prospect that's already going on in their head. And so this is the most important time of year for that. And so let me share with you why. So today we're going to talk about what I call the accounts receivable machine. So we're going to really unpack what this means and what it looks like in a law firm. Because when I built the law firm in Phoenix, for me, the most profitable time of year, I call it Christmas in a law firm, is between January and April. Now, it was a bankruptcy and tax resolution law firm, so there's a little bit more, weight on that because of the type of practice it was. But I've worked with, literally hundreds of different law firms directly, and dozens of different practice areas, and this truth is true regardless of the practice area. I guess you can make an argument that if you're a pure contingency firm, if all you do is PI, Social Security Disability, or workers' comp, that this conversation may not be for you, and that's okay. I get it. I'm assuming you weren't maybe if you are a pure contingency firm, stick around. I think you can learn a few things here or there. But this is really for the firm that if you either bill flat or you bill hourly, and you have clients who owe you money in any way, shape, or form, or you secretly suspect that you're not charging the right fee, this is something that is really going to help you with this AR machine. The accounts receivable machine for me is designed, and this is a writer downer. This is what you want to know about the accounts receivable machine. It allows you to maximize the fees that you charge, as well as maximizing the amount of people who are on plan versus off plan. So maximizing the fees that you charge, as well as maximizing the people who are on plan versus off plan. So for those of you who don't know me, you wonder why you should listen to me. So if you're my kids, you probably won't listen to me. But the truth of the matter is that I've done this, right? So I've built a law firm with my own two hands. The story goes that I was teaching lawyers how to do this, build systems. I had stumbled onto working with a guy that worked with lawyers. I fixed his business. He asked me if I could teach other lawyers how to do what I did for him. I said yes. A guy saw me speak. He happened to be a lawyer. I was in Vegas. He said, hey, you're in Phoenix and I'm in Phoenix. How about you take your crazy ideas, and as long as you protect my license, we can go build a law firm together. He says, you can't own it, but if it works, you get to tell the world about it. If it doesn't, well, you get to fail miserably in a public forum. And so I took a chance, and I was in the right place in myself financially and with my family. And we just said, yeah, let's do it. So we shared a desk, kneecap to kneecap, and we literally, he was on one side of the desk and I was on the other side of the desk. I mean that's like literally how it was. We had a little executive office suite. We did $0 in sales the first day because we had no business. All we had is a couple of names from referrals that we can tack back into. And we had one yellow page ad and a Google listing that was kind of held over from his old partnership that he broke up with. And within 2.5 years, we grew it to $3.5 million in annual sales. And that was a great story. But the most important part of that story is this, and this is really important, even for those of you that know me. You've heard me say this, but sometimes you don't catch it. The guy that I partnered with, and I don't tell his name anymore because really he got so sick of, I do so many of these, he got so sick of being hammered by everybody. I just promised, about 3 years ago that I would stop giving out his name because quite frankly, he was just getting hammered. You'll just have to take my word for it that the story really exists. But anyway, he had a lifestyle that was unbecoming to what he wanted to achieve. He had a young child at the time, never was home in time for dinner, worked every single Saturday, hadn't taken a vacation ever since he became a lawyer, which was, I think it was about 5 years at that point. But he was already successful, so his firm was already doing well financially. He was making more money than most people thought that you would make as a 5-year attorney. I'm talking multiple six figures, but the problem is he wasn't free. And so the question was, could we build this for him so he could accomplish his income and still gain his freedom? And we did. We grew it to that $3.5 million. What's important to know is his income didn't necessarily skyrocket, right, in the early stages, but his freedom did. Within a year, he took his first vacation for a month. He was never in on Saturdays unless he and I swapped on and off. And he only worked nights if he really felt like he needed to, but it was very rare. So that's the most important part about that. And so the reason why you should listen to me is that the other reason is I've worked with hundreds of attorneys to help them understand how to do this, and the ones who grab it and get it really make a difference. Jamie Miller's been a client of mine for a long time. This is what Jamie says about this particular system. I mean, Jamie's really swallowed all of the systems that I've ever dished out, and he's really made a difference in his practice. I mean, he's 400% larger than he was, I think, when we started working together. And his first goal, by the way, was he wanted to take Saturdays off. That was all he wanted to achieve. And I don't know if he's on the call. If you are, hi, Jamie. But anyway, this is what he said to me about this AR machine. He said, before we used to have stacks of client files who owed the firm money. So there's a bankruptcy attorney, so they took the case for a little bit of money down, and then they owed them balance, and they literally lined the walls of this one office. But once he implemented the accounts receivable system that we laid out for you, and Mark Demmer, who's on the call here, he helped Jamie with this. The files are gone, and the money is in the bank, and the staff feels confident. And I think this is the most important part, and that's why I underline it. The staff feels confident that when a client hires the firm, they're going to take them to the finish line. You know, regardless of the type of law that you practice, if your client doesn't pay your bill, you're probably going to withdraw from the case at some point. You're not going to take them to the finish line, and that's what was happening in Jamie's world. They were doing a great job of marketing. We'd fixed that problem in the very beginning, but they were getting all these cases that weren't paying their bill, and then we put the AR system in place, and that problem went away. So that's what this is all about for me, is really having you keep as much money as you can flowing into the firm, because that creates more profits and ultimately allows you to help more people. Yes, you get to make more money as an owner too. I don't have a problem with that, but really it allows you to have a healthy business that can help more people. So let's keep going. So why am I giving this information away for free? There's a couple of reasons that I said it earlier, that I'm really committed this year, that I want to not put such an onus on the information, because I've now come to understand, I've been saying the same thing. So that first presentation I gave, whatever, more than a decade or 12 years ago, when I helped when I was in Florida giving my first presentation on what I called the DNA of the seven-figure law firm. And I taught the same things then that I'm teaching right now. It's ironic, and nothing has changed. I mean, I've got a little bit more gray, haven't gotten any more bald. I got my eyes fixed, I don't have glasses, but the information is the same. I mean, it literally is. I stood up on stage in boot camp, and I gave presentations, and I watched my presentations, so I always can try to get better. And I listened to them, I'm like, man, that's the same stuff I've been saying for more than a decade. I mean, and so I've been saying it longer than that, but to just specifically to attorneys for that long. And so it's not about the information. What it's about is it's about the peer group and the accountability and having the implementation meetings to be able to get together. But so I've really made a commitment to doing more and giving more to the legal community. That's my goal this year. So I'm going to do one of these a year. If you weren't on before, I'm going to do one of these a month. Sorry, I'm going to do one of these presentations a month, and I'm going to try to create as much value as I can. There's two other reasons though, and the first one is not self-serving. So I like to think about an attorney's world, any business owner's world, but we're speaking to attorneys today. So I like to think about what I call the four futures. So if you imagine, if you're on the computer, you can see. If you can't and you're just dialed in, if you imagine there's a box on the left and there's 5 boxes on the right, and we're going to connect these boxes in just a second. And so if you start connecting these boxes, you can see on a timeline, we've kind of got now 1 year and 2 years. And then what happens is, if you draw a line from the box on the left, we'll call that today, to the box on the right, which is your future. If you don't do anything, or if you just kind of tread water, you're going to have the same or no change. And that's the problem. You know, if you keep doing what you've always done, you're always going to get what you always got. That's what my grandfather said, right? So, you know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Whatever cliche feels best for you. But the bottom line is that you're not going to get a change if you don't do something. And quite frankly, if you do nothing, you know, I believe a business moves forward or it moves backwards, but it can't stand still. So just inertia is going to take you in the wrong direction if you do nothing. And so the goal is to figure out, well, what 4 futures could we possibly have? And so really, here's how I look at it. And this was an epiphany that I got at boot camp, and I got it. I believe I got it from God. We won't get into that today, but know that I truly believe that this was delivered to me by the man himself. And so this idea that a law firm is either in one of 4 stages, and so they're either in chaos, they're in growth, they're healthy, or they're free. And so kind of below the line is growth and chaos. I know growth sounds like a positive word, but you'll hear me lay it out just for a little bit. You can be in growth and still feel like you're not, you know, your firm could be growing, but doesn't mean that you're happy and have a good life. And then healthy and freedom are above the line, and really freedom is the ultimate goal. And I'm really, 2018, I'm really going to pour myself into helping law firms identify which stage they're in, and more importantly, helping them get from one stage to the next. That's not the point of this conversation, but I want you to know that this is the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. Now, let's just identify these real quick. Chaos means oftentimes I find that lawyers are in debt. They work 7 days a week, not 5 days a week, and they've got no time, no money, and no plan. That's typically where I find chaos is. This is that lawyer who's not making a lot of money, or the money they're making is just circling the drain because there's debt, and they haven't really figured out a system of how to manage it all. Growth okay, so we're growing in the right direction. So our firm is growing, the top side number is growing, but there's no bottom side number. I like to say top side numbers for vanity, bottom side numbers for sanity. And so the top side number is growing, but the bottom side isn't, and you're living month to month. Like you literally have no profit, and you're scared about payroll, and you're not sure how you're going to make it, and you work 6 days a week and nights, and there's no profit from the business. It's just you take a salary from the business, right? So you're in the growth phase. You look at your top side numbers and get excited that you grew this year over last, but you're not keeping any of it. You're not in, you don't really have a business. You still have a job that happens to look like a business, but it's not. And then healthy is where your staff runs the business, you work 5 days a week, and you're profitable. So you still have to show up every day. The business still kind of requires, you know, you to be there, and you are profitable, but everybody else runs the business. And I like to say systems run your business and people run your staff. Sorry, systems run your business and people run your systems. And so this is where your staff is running the business through systems. And then freedom is, and you know, you've got $500,000 plus in the bank, and you know, I mean cash, right? I don't mean, oh, my house is worth that because the market has gone up. And you work 3 days a week, but because you realize you can't completely walk away from the business. You own it. You have to be plugged in at some level, but you're not doing any of the legal work. You're only doing the things you want to do. And if legal work's what you want to do, maybe you're doing it, but you've got what I call passive income. That's income that you make whether you roll over or roll out of bed, right? You can go away for a week or a month and come back, and your business will actually grow without you. So let's do a little test here. So you're in the chat. So tell me, just give me a heck yeah if you all want to be in the freedom stage. Heck yeah in the chat. Go ahead, type it in. Heck yeah if you want to be in the freedom stage. Anybody? Nobody? Yeah, okay, there we go. All right, so we want to be in the freedom stage. So what's important, we're not going to be able to unpack this in this system today because we've only got an hour, but we'll do more of this in February for those of you that are coming to February. But here's what I want you to know, that you very well could be in more than one stage at a time. So you could be in the healthy stage and then fall back to the growth stage for a little bit for different reasons. You could have key team members leave. I had my business manager be recruited by $1 billion company, as well as my lead tech person. They happen to be father and son, and they both got recruited by the same $1 billion company this year. As a feather in my cap, because I had my top guys recruited by a much bigger company than us, and that was cool. But that doesn't mean that it made my life any easier. So that can happen. You know, macroeconomics can be involved. Sometimes you can be in chaos and growth at the same time. But ultimately, you want to be able to learn how to get to freedom and taste freedom. And so while I've been spending the last 6 months in the healthy stage, but I've been doing, the business has required my attention, know that I've got a plan, and I'm in the hiring stage right now to move me back into complete freedom again, which is where I was, you know, 8 or 9 months ago. So that's part of business. Being a business is busy. It's tough. Running a law firm is even harder, and that's why we're here. All right. So that's the first reason. So that's the non-selfish reason. The selfish reason is if you've oh, by the way, sorry, the goal is to go from chaos to free, right? That's the goal. And the other thing I want to mention is that while this is like a 3-year cycle oftentimes to get to freedom, you know, I got this now 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, there is what I call a phenomenon where you can go from where you are today, and in like less than a year, you can get to freedom. Now, I'll warn you, that takes an awful lot of work, and that we're not going to get into today. And it takes an enormous mindset change that attorneys, I find, have to go through. So while I want to inspire you, it's possible, and I have seen it happen. Howard Snyder is probably the best example. I don't know if he's on the call today, but you know, he literally went in 60 weeks from where he was to completely free at times. And so I've seen it happen, and I've seen it happen more than once. Howard is probably the most recent story. I would say that Todd Farmer and Sam Wright also experienced that. They were the winners of the EAY challenge this year. And we had Mike Chastain, who still practices law, who was a finalist, and Buck Mallory, who still practices law, and he was a finalist. So I'd say Todd Farmer and Sam Wright, as well as Howard, are the two that got there in that, you know, that 12-month period of time. So it's possible. but I'm not making that promise to anybody. You really have to, and you got to let it all on the line to be able to do that. The selfish reason that I'm telling you today, if you're not in our world, that I just want to invite you that if you want to know more about this, you want to know more about us, we try to put the wood in the fireplace before we ask for heat. But go ahead and you can schedule some time with us. This is what the site looks like. The website is therichardjames.com, therichardjames.com/PPGP. That's Peter, George, Peter. And it really stands for Personalized Practice Growth Plan. And that's where we're going to invest some time with you. We schedule 20-minute appointments to kind of unpack where you're at. And oftentimes we'll take a little bit longer than that if you've got some time. And we'll share with you how you can figure out where you're at and how you can move from one stage to the next. Okay, that's the last of the crash commercial. So here's my first promise that I was going to give you 7 techniques. Let's get into the meat of it, all right? 7 techniques. So we're going to talk about the AR machine, the 7 techniques. The first of the 7 techniques, and I'm running on time, and we've got about the right number of people, so I don't have to do any more commercials for anybody who's new on the call. So inspect by report. Now, if you've been around me long at all, you know that I believe in 3 parts of any system. The first is harvest every single piece of information about every single thing every single time. The second is inspect by report. And the third is automation. That's how you build a system. If you've never heard that before, it's a writer downer. That is harvest every single piece of information every single time. Second is inspect by report. And the third is automation. Oh, cool. We've got a whiteboard up there. Neat. Don't know how that happened, but we're just going to run with it. So we've got this concept of inspect by report. So what does that mean in the first technique? Well, the first technique really means that you need to know in your AR machine who owes you money. So the first step, when I've got lawyers who come to me, they go, I'm not making enough profit. Okay, the first thing I do is I start diagnosing where they're at. And so I start asking questions like, okay, how many clients files do you have? How many of those clients have an open balance? Of those clients that have an open balance, how many of them are what I call on plan versus off plan? So they've agreed to hire your firm, they've agreed to the fee structure, they've maybe agreed to a payment plan or not, but they're on plan with you, that you consider them, they've made their payments as you expected them to make their payments. And what I find is most attorneys can't answer these questions. So before we can put this system into place, you need to know that if you don't know the answers to those questions, I'm not beating on you. I'm just telling you, you got to know them. So the easiest way, and we're not going to get caught up into fancy software today. So listen, the easiest way to do this is you've all got client files. You all have matter files that tell you kind of where you are with your client and what the case value was and whether they've got payment plans or not. So that information is somewhere, likely in a file. You just have your son, your daughter, an intern, your wife, your husband, your secretary, somebody in the extra hours of the day. Just go through the files and start compiling a list and just put it on a Google sheet. So a Google sheet, not an Excel sheet, go to Google. And the reason I want you to use Google is because multiple people can share it. And so you just have to make sure you know who owes you money and how much they owe you, and are they on plan or are they not on plan? That's so important. So does anybody have any questions? If you have questions, you can go ahead and put them into the chat. If not, I'm just going to keep rolling. So I'll keep my eye on it. But really, and again, at the end, I will open up for just general Q&A, so you can write questions down too if you don't want to break the flow. So that's technique number 1, inspect by report. If you don't have that, you have to have it. So let's assume that you either have it or you're going to get it. All right. Now, this is my second promise that I made to you. I told you I was going to teach you one thing that your competitors aren't doing, and this is called create a simple offer. So here's what I want you to do. And this is a super simple system that I'm going to tell you, so you're going to want to write down, all right? So we talked earlier, if you weren't on the call when I asked this question earlier, I said, what is the one thing that is on the mind of every single person in America who earns an income right now? And the answer was tax, all right? That was the answer everybody came back to. So yes, taxes. The big boys are already doing your job for you. And so here's what I did in the law firm that I built. So in this time of year, this January till April, I created a simple offer, all right? And all the offer was is I went out, I put an ad in the paper to find a bookkeeper, all right? And I found a bookkeeper, and you'd think that it would be hard to find a bookkeeper this time of year, and I got to tell you, it wasn't. I found one. And I found a bookkeeper who was looking for what I call wholesale work. So if you know anything about the tax world, to go get your taxes filed at H&R Block or whatever is typically around $250 to $400, for a simple filing, right? And TurboTax is putting on the whole, it's free, right? So there's already this thought that's going on in their mind that it's possible that it's free, but many people don't want to do it on their own. It's free if you do it on your own, but it's not free if you hire somebody to do it. So there's already a price point kind of put out there for people to have their taxes done. However, when you hire a bookkeeper that does it as a wholesale work, because you're going to give them work in bulk, you're going to find that they're going to charge you $50 to $75 to do an easy return. And most people just need an easy return. So what you need to know is you need to find yourself a wholesale bookkeeper that'll do it for somewhere between $50 and $75. And they work with the client, they harvest all the documents, they do the filing, and you get it done. Now, here's why this is important. Because now you're not going to pay you're going to give somebody what's considered money at a discount, right? You're not going to charge them anything for this. Your offer is going to be that you'll do their taxes for free, for the 2017 tax filing year, okay? And so I just want to it's just a simple offer. The basis of the offer is we are going to do your taxes for free. So that's kind of the headline. Not here's how you get your taxes done for free if you do it yourself. No, we're going to do the work for you, and we're going to do your taxes for free. And as a firm, it's going to cost you $50 or $75 to do that. Now that it might sound like a cost to you, but remember, we're going back to the original data, and we're looking at all the people who owe you money and who aren't on plan. And I suspect most firms, from my experience, most of the people who owe them money aren't on plan. So we're using this free tax solution to get people to get back on plan. So that's the first step. And so let me just say, we're creating an offer. The offer is we're going to do your taxes for free, and we are going to communicate with, first and foremost, all of the clients that you have who either owe you large sums of money and are in small plans, or are on a plan with you but are not actually on plan. They're what we consider off plan. They're not making their payments on time. They're missing their retainer refreshment, or they're missing their payments, whatever it looks like in your world. We're going to identify who they are, and we're going to create an offer that offers to do their taxes for free. Now, in return, they are going to do a multitude of things. Either they are going to get on plan with you, they are going to pledge their tax return to you, possibly they are going to pay you off in full right now, and with a credit card, knowing that you're going to get their taxes filed and they're going to pay their credit card off with the returns. I couldn't do that in the bankruptcy firm because we couldn't take credit cards. We can only take debit cards. So for us, it was oftentimes used as getting them back on plan and making a pledge of their tax return to pay us in full. And that's how we did it. So the agreement was, we'll do your taxes for free if you agree to come get on plan with us. So get on plan first, not we'll do your taxes, then you get on plan. No, you come up to being on plan, whatever that looks like. If you were paying $200 every 2 weeks and you're 2 months behind, we need you to get the $600 and get on plan. Or I'd work with people and say, okay, listen, you can't get the $600, let's just start new. Let's make the first $200 payment today, and 2 weeks from now, we're going to make a $200 payment again, and we're going to get back on plan. Or if the $200 was more aggressive and I needed to change it, we would change it. If it needed to be $150 or $100, I didn't care. What I cared was that they were going to get on plan with me. The second thing that we were going to do was that we were going to have them pledge their tax return. So we're not H&R Block, and we can't have the money come to us that we then give to them. So which is incidentally a whole nother conversation about a law firm potentially owning a tax firm at some point, but we're not going to go there. So just know that you can't get them to literally pledge the money and have it come to you in most circumstances. But what you can do is you can have them pledge it and say that they're going to bring the check into you, or you can schedule the payment plan to come out of their debit card on a certain date based on when you know they're going to get their money. All right, so that's the goal. The goal is to get them to pledge. So this is the simple offer. Now, your competitors aren't doing this. Tax solution is interesting, but did you inform your update your malpractice insurance character, or the bookkeeper indemnify the firm? Yeah, so good question, Tamika. So yes, you should always let your malpractice insurance provider know what you're doing, and we make sure we put it under the scope. I'm not a lawyer, full disclosure, so you need to know that I let the lawyer handle that. But yeah, for sure. I mean, anytime you're in business and you're adding a new service area, you want to make sure your malpractice and your E&O insurance as well as your general liability insurance is made aware. Let's keep going. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do a simple offer, straightforward. Everybody get it? I'm assuming everybody gets it. I'm gonna keep going. Ask if you need to. All right. The third technique is now we are going to take the offer and we're going to communicate via email. And this is what I want to talk to you about, techniques. So again, if you're not in my world and you don't have Infusionsoft or Aweber or Constant Contact or some system that's managing your emails and you're still using Outlook, I don't want you to get caught up in, oh, I don't have software to do this, okay? We're not building out a fancy campaign that's going to turn on and turn off. I'm literally saying we're just going to send an email offer out. Maybe we'll send it out a couple of times throughout the year. And if somebody comes in and takes advantage of it, we may have to take them off the list. But I'm just talking about building even in your Outlook account, just sending your emails, a batch of emails through your Outlook account to your existing clients. Most people don't have hundreds and thousands of clients that owe the money. There are some firms that do, and if you do, you probably already have a system to manage your emails, and you don't need to use Outlook. If you're a smaller firm and you have a couple of dozen people who owe you money, we're talking about putting money in your pocket right now. You can do this through Outlook, okay? But just the email is, make sure you use a subject line that is attractive. So, hey, I want to share with you how I'll do your taxes for free, or use their first name. Hey, Rich, if it's an email program, they can do this pretty easy. Going to do your taxes for free, or more information about getting your taxes done for free from this law firm. You'll test different email subject lines. But my point is, I'm not as interested as the subject line and the copy, and I don't need you to make it really complicated. It's literally just as simple as, Dear John, I hope this message finds you doing well. This is Joe from the office of Joe Smith. I am excited to serve you in your case. I know we've communicated in the past about your outstanding balance. I want to put that aside for a minute and just let you know I've created a program that I'm going to be able to do your taxes for free. I thought it might be interesting to you. Let me know if you'd like to schedule a time to talk. And that's it. And if you don't want to talk about their open balance, don't. But just keep it simple and just have them email you back if they want to schedule a time to talk. It just doesn't have to be that complicated. I promise you, if you just do this alone, you'll start getting responses immediately. And it's really the most important part, is starting to get responses, okay? Now, that's step one. Step two is you got to do it through text messaging. Again, if you're not a firm that has a fancy piece of software that does this for you, and they're not expensive, but I don't want you to get into getting complicated, go down to your local phone company that you have and add an extra phone line for a couple of bucks a month. Get a cheap smartphone. They're super cheap these days. You can get an old iPhone or an old Android phone and have it be your office cell phone, and have your sister, your mother, your brother, your cousin, your husband, your wife, your secretary, or somebody just start texting your clients that same message, although more brief, right? We don't want to be a 5-message long text, but hey, we figured out how to do your taxes for free. Let me know if you're interested. Law firm of Joe Smith from law firm of. Just something simple. Again, we're going to communicate using what I call the 5 senses of communication. In this case, I'm talking about 4 of them today. But I just want you to keep it simple, just a simple text message, and start saying, hey, here's the offer we've made. Are you interested in it? Okay? If you haven't guessed, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use direct mail. Again, I don't need you to go buy any fancy lists. We're talking about small lists of people. Somebody that you know, friend, family, somebody in your firm can take a simple letter on your letterhead, right? It's not advertisement anymore, so you don't have to put advertising on it anymore because it's not solicitation. You're sending it to a client. And so you don't have to worry about all the rules and regulations around advertising. All you got to do is put in an envelope, put a stamp on it. The letter should be no different than the email. You should do all of these because not everybody, listen, only 26% on average of people open email rates. And oftentimes it's lower than that if depending on your list or how old their emails are. Text messages are great, but not all firms have cell phones for every one of your clients. You should, which is bringing me all the way back to harvesting, right? If you're not harvesting the right information about your clients as you're going through, we've got a challenge, all right? So, but I don't want to digress. But direct mail, pretty much everybody's going to open it, especially if it's on the lawyer's envelope. They just typically are going to open that mail. Because you're their firm that they hired. You can get fancy if you want and send it in certified mail. You could send it in FedEx if you want. I mean, if the balances are big enough, you certainly can do that, and that will increase open rate. But right now, all I care about is we start sending this message in direct mail. And then finally, the 6th technique, and this is the one where I think most people miss it. Honest to God, I think this is where law firms miss it more often than not for me. And this is follow up with a phone call. And so you've sent the email, you've sent the text message, you sent the direct mail piece. The person on the phone, somebody in your world, not you, please, not you, the lawyer. I'm begging you, don't do it. It's just not a good idea for you to be in a collections situation. It's not a good idea for, yes, there are times when lawyers can collect better than anybody else because of all the right reasons. It's just not the thing I want you doing. It's not something you have to do. Somebody else can make this phone call and leave voice messages. Have a little scripted voice message that's basically the same script that we used in the email and the direct mail, and just says, hey, this is Jim calling from the office of Joe Jones. Mr. Jones found a way to get your taxes done for free. I want you to know we're offering it as a service to you as a client of ours. Give me a call back if you're interested, 555-1212. That's it. And you probably would have, you probably saw a text message from us. You probably saw an email from us. I'll try you back. There's a limited window on this. There's only so many we can do, whatever. And so put a little limited supply on there if you'd like to. But I'm not actually asking you to get sexy. I'm not asking you to get copy, writer talented on this. I'm just asking you to just do these things. And I'm asking you not to do them, asking somebody else to do them. And then what I'm asking you to do is I'm asking you to build a system for this, right? So what I want you to do is I want you to build a system for this. So let me see. I'm going to stop the share, and then I'm going to, what I want you to do is I want you to build a system for this. Because just because we did it now doesn't mean we're done. First of all, this is a campaign that, yes, is relevant for taxes. But we created an offer. We just happen to create an offer that's going on in their mind. Well, you could certainly create an offer that's going on in their mind, and you can have it be about summer vacation. You can have it be about going back to school. You can have it be about the holidays. You could do some other sort of offer, and you can discount their open balance. You can do other things. You don't just have to do free taxes. I'm just happening to use that right now because it's relevant, and this is the time where people happen to be flush with cash. I was talking to a friend of mine who's moonlighting as he's a controller at a big company, but he's moonlighting at an H&R Block. And he's doing it because he wants to find out how they operate, because he's thinking about opening up his own little side tax practice. And so he's working for $12 an hour and giving his labor to this company to figure it out, which is a great lesson in and of itself. But what I want to mention is that, he was telling me about all the people that are getting $3,000 and $6,000 kid tax credit return. So they didn't make enough money. They made $20,000 or less than $20,000 a year, and so their taxes are, whatever that tax line is exempt. But they have 2 or 3 kids, and they get tax credits, and they're literally getting a refundable tax credit from the government. And oftentimes these are folks that you find in your world. And so they are going to be flush with money now more than ever. So I promise you, this is the time we want to pay attention to this. But I want you to build a system because, 1, I want you to be able to repeat this next year. But 2, I want you to repeat it at different times in the year so that you never struggle with this. I also want to build the system for the next reason. So I want to create what I call a permanent solution. So I thought this was funny. I'm saying a permanent solution, but this is the Rocky clip, right? So when Mickey was telling Rocky he couldn't fight anymore, and Rocky it was Rocky 2. Rocky wanted to come back and he wanted to fight Apollo Creed again, and Mickey was telling him that he couldn't do it. And Rocky was saying that he could, and Mickey kind of proved it to him, and he said, what's going to happen to you? And he says he's going to hurt you, and he's going to hurt you. Make sure that works. So we're going to open up, and we're going to do what we call the permanent solution. So what is the permanent solution? When you're on the phone, and we've got a phone, we want to do a reactive scenario a proactive scenario rather than a reactive scenario. What we find most law firms do is they are in a reactive mode. Okay, so the 6 techniques. So follow up with a phone call. So here it is. I took that video out. So what we want to do is we want to do a proactive rather than a reactive solution. Okay, this is the permanent solution. So let me ask you a question. On a scale from 1 to 10, you guys can type this in there. How important, 1 being not very important, 10 being like the most important thing that is in your business. How important is cash flow to your business? Type it in. 1 is not important. 10 is the most important thing you've got. Yeah, okay. On a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being not very good at it, 10 being very good at it, second question. How good are your clients at managing their cash flow?
He's on 4.
Yeah, 5, 7, 6, 3, 5. Yeah, right. Not very good, right? And so what we find is my question is this: why do we let clients who are not real good at managing their cash flow manage the cash flow of the law firm? This is the thing that always confused me, because there we go. I found that little bit of background noise and I muted it. What confused me is if cash flow is like so important, what happens in most law firms is a client comes in and the lawyer tells them what they're going to do, and they diagnose the situation, and the client says, yeah, I want to hire you. And then they quote the fee, and then the client hems and haws and doesn't know how they're going to pay for it. And maybe the lawyer has a payment plan they can put them on, and they tell them they can pay, X amount of dollars over time, depending on the case type and the length of the case and all sorts of things. And then what happens is the client leaves, and the firm doesn't put the client on a specific plan, and they kind of let them pay what they can when they can based on the necessity or the pressure of what's going on in the law firm or their case. And so it never works, because now the client who's not good at managing their money never stays on plan the way you want them to, or at least a high percentage of them don't. And then you, the law firm, end up with a cash flow situation where you've got the employees you need to work the case, but now the revenue's not coming in to manage the case. And what happens is you get inverted on your profit and loss statement, and you're not making profit the right way. This is why this happens, okay? It happens more times. It's either that or you're not charging enough for your fees, which is a whole nother argument that we can talk about. But what really happens more often than not, if you take payments, there's no plan for it. So the second step, and this is the promise I made you, I'd give you a step-by-step kind of how to make this permanent. The second step is that you have to make sure that you schedule a payment plan. So here's the rule. You have to have a rule of engagement for your firm that says, if you're going to accept payment plans in your firm, that anybody can go on a payment plan with your firm. So any client can go on a payment plan. But no client can go on a payment plan without a specific in writing committed plan with a form of payment. So if you're the one who's in the consult room, if you're the lawyers in the consult room, and I get it, a lot of you are, and you're meeting with your clients and they want to go on a payment plan with you, they can do it, but they can only do it if you get a firm in writing how they're going to pay you, like what method, credit card, debit card, cash, check, and I prefer debit card or credit card if I can, 100% of the time. And when are they going to pay you, and how much are they going to pay you? And that's in writing in the client service agreement, your fee agreement, whatever you call it. Okay, that's step one or step two on this. You have to first identify how important this is to you. If cash flow is not important to you, then we'll just skip this, I guess. Here's the second thing I want to do. Now I want you to have somebody in your office, not you. Again, not you. Somebody. Again, if you don't have any employees, have a family member do it for you. And just start taking a filing cabinet, file folder, one of those accordion things, I don't care. And just put files in there and have it be from 1 to 31. It should say 31, not 30. There's 31 days in a month. I don't know why I put 30. That's my fault, nobody else's. It should say 1 to 31 because there's 31 days in the month, right? And all that is a place for you to put when that payment is due. So if John says he's going to pay you on every Friday, well, you know, based on the calendar, what days of the month these Fridays fall. And so let's say the first Friday is the 7th, for lack of a better number. You're going to put John's payment plan in the 7th, and whoever's managing this is going to go on the 7th and open it up and go, okay, John's going to pay us today on credit card. I'm going to run the credit card or the debit card. John's check is supposed to be here. Is it here? John was supposed to have a drop off cash. Did he drop it off? No. Okay. So now we know what happened on the 7th. And if John paid, well, John's paying every Friday, so that means on the 14th, now we're going to move it over to the 14th. It's super simple. Again, folks, I'm not talking about software. If you've got software, great. I love software. But if you don't have it, I'm just not trying to make software a barrier, okay? So just make sure we're having a system that is working by date, all right? And then what's going to happen is we're going to proactively, not reactively call. So what happens in law firms is we know that law firms, the number one complaint to bar associations about law firms is the lack of communication. We know it. We know law firms are not great communicators for lots of reasons. Not because you don't want to be. It's because sometimes because clients are a pain in the rear end. It's sometimes because there's just nothing going on in their case and there's nothing to communicate about. It's sometimes because nobody in the law firm everybody's so inundated with returning the calls of the people who are taking care of them. There's no time to call anybody on purpose. There's so many reasons for this that I get it, but none of it matters because all that matters is that the clients think that you're lousy communicators. They voted on it with their complaints to the Bar Association. They voted on it by not giving you great Google reviews. And so when you turn into a proactive communicator, what happens is you end up changing your view in the client's eye, even though you're proactively communicating about their payment plan. But here's the thing. We're not going to proactively communicate about the payment plan. We're going to proactively communicate about the relationship. So somebody, again, not you, needs to be on the phone, making these calls, communicating with people who are on plan with you. Now, here's my rule of engagement. This is important. If you have people on a payment plan and they're paying you via debit card or credit card, you don't call them until after the payment has been made. So you use the date of their payment, regardless of how they're paying you, as the date of the marker for your call. If they're paying you via credit card or debit card and you have it set up automatically or you manually run it, you don't call them until after that payment has either been made or it fails. Here's the reason. If you call them in advance, they're liable to ask you not to run the payment because they're not very good at managing their money and you gave them the opportunity to stop. And if they ask you that question, odds are pretty good you're not going to not do it. Some firms will, but many firms will acquiesce. And so I don't want you calling them until after the card is run. If they're paying in cash or check, you know by the date of the payment that either the payment came in or it didn't. So we're calling them. If the payment came in on that date, let's assume the payment did come in. We're calling them. We're not calling them about their payment, even though that's the trigger for the call. We're calling them about their family, about their relationship, about what's going on in their life. You know, the person making these calls has to know at least why they're hiring your firm, what's going on. They should know how many kids they have, if they're married, are they working, are they not working, were they injured, what's going on in their life, so they can form a real relationship-like communication with them. See, this is not about being a collection agency. This is about building a relationship with your client. If you do that, you're going to have your clients love you more because you're communicating with them. And then at the end of that conversation, whatever reason you call them about, their birthday, their anniversary, their kids, their whatever, the weekend, now you can then bring up, hey, by the way, want to let you know the payment went through, and congratulations, you're one step further closer to being paid in full. Or, you know, hey, unfortunately, I didn't see the payment come through. Tell me, what do we need to do? How do I need to come alongside you to keep you on plan? They're going to tell you what's going on. I'm coming down later today. Oh, I'm sorry, I put it in the mail yesterday. Yeah, you know, I got my credit card got stolen. My debit card got stolen. I needed a new one. There's all sorts of reasons, but now proactively we know. Here's the other thing. If we start this from the very first phone calls, from the very moment they hire your firm, as soon as they hire your firm, the first call they should get is from the person who's going to keep them on plan versus off plan, and they should build a relationship with them. If they start this in the beginning and they know that Sally's going to call them and Sally's sweet and Sally's kind and Sally cares, they're more apt to take Sally's call, even though they know they owe you money. And so that's what we want. We want them to take Sally's call. So how do we get them to take Sally's call? We make sure that Sally starts proactively calling rather than reactively calling. All right. Anybody have questions about this? No. Okay. The seventh technique, final technique. Let's take the offer and add it to your existing marketing. So once you get used to this and you know what to do, now you can use it as lead generation. So if you use TV, and many of you don't, but some of you do, if you use TV, when you're in the commercial, depending on whether you shot a new commercial or you're being interviewed on a segment like I like to do, even if you're talking about a book, you can now float this in. You could pretty easily, on any commercial you already have, do a voiceover and add a little, chop off a section and add in a section of, hey, call us now to find out how to get your taxes done for free. We're going to do a free tax return. You could make an entire commercial about it. Now, if we're not going to use TV as the media, maybe we're using pay-per-click as the media. Why couldn't we have pay-per-click and a landing page and a video where you're talking about the fact that you'll do their tax returns for free? Listen, if you're willing to do tax returns for free for somebody who owes you $700, $800, $2,000, $5,000, whatever it is, and would you not do tax returns for free if somebody came in and hired you as a new client? If I said to you, hey, listen, somebody's going to hire you to be a new client, an average client value of $2,500, I don't know what yours is, let's just say it's $2,500, would you not pay $50 or $75 to acquire that client? Yeah, of course you would. So $50 to $75 is a small amount of money to acquire the client. So why wouldn't you use that in your marketing? So whether you have a newspaper ad or you use direct mail, or you use TV, radio, or internet marketing, you can certainly use this story that you've got about taxes, and you can develop this stuff. And by the way, when you develop it for this year, then you can use it next year. Now, I don't want you to put the cart in front of the horse, because this is the reason I told you this last. Because the danger is, the risk is that you end up trying to do this first. I need you to make sure you put the system in place first and understand what your offer is and start to test it on your clients, because you're going to find the holes, you're going to find the better language, and they're going to be more understanding, and they're going to give you more wide berth than our prospects. So I want you to make sure you do this with them first so you can develop the system, and then go and add it to your existing marketing. And then once you do it for your tax return model that we just laid out today, as I said, why couldn't you learn that, oh, wow, events like freemiums that I give away tend to work better in my marketing than just regular boring advertising looking for people who are needing my services. And that's the truth, right? When you advertise, when most law firms advertise, think about how they advertise. They advertise, hey, if you're in an accident, if you are in financial difficulty, if you've been arrested of a DUI, if you're facing a divorce scenario, if you're trying to keep your kids, if you're had somebody die in your family and you're worried about your estate, if you're trying to get your green card, whatever. If you want to see if you're qualified for any of these things, typically your advertisement is call us for a free consultation. I'm not going to argue whether that's right or wrong. What I'm saying is, first of all, you're not different than anybody else that's doing it. All of the other lawyers in your town are doing the same thing. And secondly, all you're looking for is buyers. So you're hoping to put your ad out there so you run into the buyer who's looking for you on Google or whatever, driving down the road at seeing a billboard. But we need, the trick to the game is to look for more than buyers in marketing. See, in marketing, there's what we call skimmers and divers. Divers are people who are ready right now. They are experiencing so much pain that they need to make a decision today. Well, that's what most lawyer advertising is going after. But what we want is we want the skimmers, people who are not necessarily ready to commit to a law firm today, but they would be interested in a free book, a free report, or they'd be interested in learning how to get their taxes done, or they'd be interested in some other offer that you've got some other time throughout the course of the year. It's an old technique that Estee Lauder used to do, just called gift with purchase. It was really founded back in the early 1900s. Gift with purchase. That's the psychology here. The Cialdini, the guy who wrote the book Influence, calls it, the law of reciprocity. We give them something for free, they'll give us something in return. So existing marketing, we want to add this to our existing marketing. That is the seventh technique. So I've covered all the things I promised I'd cover. I gave you the thing that your competitor is not doing, gave you a step-by-step system how to manage your phones. I gave you the 7 techniques. What's the fastest way for you to see a result in your bank account? Blaine would have asked me. Is do it. Just trust me. I know that you're busy. I know that if you're in chaos right now, if you identified yourself as being in chaos, because you're in debt, you're working 7 days a week, there's not enough time, or you're in growth. Here's what you need to know. Your only path out of that is figuring out the right thing to do from 5 to 9. You see, you're going to make your living from 9 to 5. That's the reality. That's how businesses operate. You make your living from 9 to 5. But you make your fortune from 5 to 9. Or in this case, you obtain your freedom from 5 to 9. You have to carve out some time in your day to work on this stuff. It's the only way it's going to happen. No little elf is going to come and do it for you. There is no firm I've ever met, there's no company I've ever met that will walk into a law firm and just do this for you. Trust me, I've looked. Okay? They don't exist. If they did exist, I would highly recommend that you hire them. There's companies that will do marketing for you, and there's companies that will help you even maybe with some management, but there's no company that will help you build these systems. This has to come from you, the entrepreneurial-minded attorney. And so you're going to have to find time to do this. And so the fastest way to do it is to get money in your bank is to do it now. Now, if you're new to our world and you're not a client, you're not a member, you're not on this phone, and you don't really know what we're all about, and you want to do it, you can go ahead and I talked to you about this earlier, schedule a free consultation with us. You can go to therichardjames.com/PPGP. That's Peter, George, Peter, PPGP. That stands for Personalized Practice Growth Plan. And we'll spend some time with you, and we'll try to help you understand how to do it yourself or show you how our program works. But that's an option. But at the end of the day, you chose to be, well, maybe you didn't choose to be, but you are an entrepreneurial-minded attorney. You're on this call because you're an entrepreneurial-minded attorney. You're on this call because you see your law firm, as your calling, but you also have it as a practice, it is a business. And so you have this entrepreneurial drive. You realize there's more to the story. This is one small step and more to the story. It's a big step. If done correctly, will make a massive difference in your practice. But let me see. By the way, if you're coming on that PPGP, just so you know, one of the things that we do is we identify if you're in chaos or growth, or are you in healthy and free, and then we share with you how to go from chaos and growth, and how to go to healthy or free, and then And the other thing is you're going to discover there's thousands and thousands of attorneys just like you that are struggling. And we're going to share with you what they've developed and what they've learned. Let's go to the Q&A. So I'll leave that website URL up there if somebody wanted to go and schedule their own personalized practice growth plan. But let me go into the Q&A. I've covered a fair amount. Does anybody have any questions for me today? I scheduled an hour and a half for this call today because I figured it was going to take a little longer. If you've got questions, I'll stick around and answer for them. If you don't, we can call it a day. But in the chat area, you can go ahead and you can type in any questions that you have, and I'm happy to answer them for you if you've got any. All right, so today we laid out the 7 steps to maximizing your profit. Inside of that, we talked about the accounts receivable machine. Inside the accounts receivable machine, we really paid attention to the 7 steps of writing an offer, then taking that offer and communicating it via email, via text message, via direct mail, then via the telephone, and then taking that telephone and turning it into a permanent, proactive rather than reactive system to maintain your collections process. And then finally, we talked about taking this system, the offer that we created, and putting it into your marketing so you can develop some marketing strategies that will start to look for skimmers, not just the buyers, just like everybody else is doing. So I don't see any questions coming up. I'm gonna end it unless I'll give you one more second. If anybody has a question, go ahead and send it in. I'm not seeing any, so I'm gonna call it a day. Let's see. Well, most of my practice is contingent fee work. Yeah. So Michael, I started. So here's the thing about contingent fee work. So first of all, you said most of my practice, which means some of your practice isn't. And if I was on the phone with you, I would be asking you, well, which part of your practice do you want to grow? Do you want to grow the contingency side of your practice, or do you want to grow the hourly billing or flat fee side of the practice? So let me ask you that. You want to grow the contingency side. Okay. Is it personal injury, workers' comp, Social Security, disability? One of those 3 or something like that? Okay. So you know that in that side of your practice, it's not about you getting paid, right? Meaning like it's not about you physically getting paid. What it's about for you is, okay, mainly car wrecks. What it's about for you is getting the work processed in time so the case can settle more efficiently and on time or as per expected. Would you agree with that? Yeah. So the question is, how do you use this strategy to ensure that you get your cases worked the way you need them worked so that you can get the case settled in a faster period of time? Sometimes there's things out of your control, like defense, insurance, and things like that. I get it, doctors. But with your client, when you're waiting on things from your client and you're communicating with them, or you're waiting on things from other people besides yourself, the question is, how can I utilize marketing to communicate with the people I need something from? Now, I don't know the answer off the top of my head for you specifically to what you're going through, but here's what I know. There's something that each of these people that you need to communicate with wants, whether it's information, whether it's your time, whether it's your attention. They're not going to need a discount. They probably don't need their taxes done, but maybe they do. But if you're waiting on somebody for something, wherever that bottleneck is, the question you have to ask yourself is, how can I use marketing and proactive communication? And of all the things that I talked about today, the most important thing I would say for you is the proactive communication, both to your clients and both to all parties involved in the case, to be managed and moving them from one stage to the next. And so when I work with PI firms to get them to reduce the amount of months it takes for a case to close, and that's really the metric I'm looking at. How many months does it take me to get the case to close? Because the value of the case, Social Security, disability, different, I get it. But in a PI case specifically, the value of the case oftentimes is in simple PI cases are not going to vary whether this took 9 months or this took 16 months. I'm going to get about the same value for the case. It oftentimes has to do with how we're working the case. And so I take a marketing approach and say, okay, inside of this, what are the stages you run inside of your firm? And then how can I use marketing and strategic offers to communicate to those people as I go through the case? Now, I also want to make sure that because you will be building, like, I don't know that we're going to use something like taxes. So I'm going to try to use something what I call evergreen. So I'm going to try to come up with offers that I can use that are evergreen and communications I can come up with that are evergreen, meaning that I can use them forever. And I'm going to build that system so that whether the case comes in January or the case is in December, I can use this communication system that I can load into software like Infusionsoft or things like that, that I can evergreen the communication. So I don't know that that answers your question directly. How can you use an offer for a contingency case to manage collections? The answer is the offer has to be tied directly to moving the bottleneck of one stage to the next stage to ultimately reduce the amount of time it takes for you to get paid. Hope that helped. Clients have a close relationship with me, the attorney versus my intake receptionist. Shouldn't I be the person asking for my firm, the retainer are thousands, very helpful. Yeah, so Tamika, so that's a common, that's a common misnomer. So let me ask, Tamika, did you tell me that you would ultimately like to be free? Of course. Okay. So if you would ultimately like to be free, then the only way for me to get you free is to replace yourself in certain roles. And so I know that right now clients have a closer relationship with you, the attorney, versus your intake receptionist. Shouldn't you be the person asking for fees? My problem is that that's you wearing a $20 or $25 an hour hat, or maybe $15 an hour hat, depending on your demographic and how much you pay people. And that's not the highest and best use of your job. Would you get better results? Yeah. I was talking to Scott David Stewart the other day. Many of you know him. He's a longtime client of me, divorce, family law. One of the first guys that figured out, that I worked with, figured out how to get family law to be where he really wasn't, he doesn't do any of the work anymore. And we had this conversation about, other attorneys that we've worked with, he's worked with, that I've worked with. And he says, because he's seen my membership for years now. He says, the number one challenge I find with attorneys that want to be free is that they're not used to things being done at about 90% of the level that they usually can get them done. In other words, what he was saying to me, and these are my words, not his, attorneys are very used to getting things done right and done well, and in some cases done perfectly. And there's a lot of reasons for that. There's some law school reasons for that. I've never been to law school, but I've been told. There's some, upbringing reasons for that. There's some personality-driven reasons for that, and all that's fine. But if you're going to truly become free, like really become free, one of the hardest things for attorneys to do is to have a mindset change that it's possible that other people can do things in their firm that they're not going to do as well as you, likely 85 to 90% as well as you would do them. But having that happen at 90% is going to allow your firm to grow more freely without you involved and having you do your highest and best work. Did that answer your question? Cool. Okay. We're about 3:23. Anybody else have another question? I can answer it. Let me make sure I didn't miss one as I was talking, looking you in the eye. Percentage of increased fees. Oh, okay. What percentage of increased fees do you expect from this program? Are there other examples of gifts besides tax resolutions? Well, okay, so increased fees. So let's talk about increased fees. So why does offering tax resolution or tax filings allow you to get increased fees? Well, when you're in initial consultation during the tax season, so you're not even using it in your marketing, when you build your, when attorney says to me, they're not charging enough. I've done the diagnostics and I know they're not charging enough. Let's take a DUI attorney that's charging, $1,900 for a DUI and tells me, can't do it, can't raise my prices. Yet I know that I've got DUI attorneys that charge $6,500 every day of the week. And they say, well, their jurisdictions are different. They give me all the reasons why they can't do it, okay? And I finally convinced them to just try it. Just, can we raise it $100, okay? And after many, many moons of begging, they say yes. One of the easiest ways to raise prices, or the reason, is to give added value, because they think that the price that they charge is already as high as it needs to be in the market, and they would have to give more value to charge more. Now, that's a misnomer. That's not true, by the way, but they think that it is. And so it makes them feel better when they have a way to give added value. So when you want to raise your prices, by having a freemium like I'll do your taxes for free, it takes advantages of the law of reciprocity and allows you to charge a higher fee. Now, as to how high the fee is, I don't want to sound like a lawyer here, but it all depends. I mean, if you're charging $1,900 for a DUI and I really want you to charge $3,500, no reason why I couldn't see near 100% increase in price. Rick West, for those of you that are members, there's a recording from Rick West on the dashboard. You should go grab it. I interviewed him a number of years ago, and he is a bankruptcy attorney who is now wildly successful. In the early stages when he and I were working together, he'd been in practice for a number of years, I think over 20, and he was struggling with price. He was charging like $950, and I kept saying, got to raise your prices, got to raise your prices. Anyway, bottom line is he kept telling me no until finally he got to the point where he said yes, and we had him raise him $100 at a time, and within, I think it was 9 months, because it was $100 every month, he was charging $1,850, which was double what he was charging. And in the last meeting, I remember he said to me as clear as day, I was sitting in a meeting and the client came in and I told him the fee, $1,800, and the client took out a wad of $100 bills, wrapped off the $1,800 and had like $400 left and said, well, thank goodness I could take my wife out for dinner. I thought it was going to be more expensive than that. And Rick was just crushed. He realized, oh my goodness, right? Folks, listen, fees, I promise you, fees in a law firm it's between here. The value you create for your clients, I know that you have judges that can dictate fees. I know you have trustees that can dictate fees. I get it. You've got a lot of evil forces against you. You've got competitors that are suppressing price. Don't misunderstand me. I do understand what you're faced with. Okay, it's why I say running a business is hard, running a law firm is harder. Okay, however, you can charge the right fee for your service, and you should. I got a 19-year-old son who's building websites from his dorm room through Wix My Website, and we put out a plan. I just wrote a newsletter article about this. If he follows the plan based on the traffic he has, he wants to do $50,000 in 2018, and I put out a plan with him one night Saturday before he went back to school. He could do $400,000. Now I don't know if he will, and he doesn't know if he will, but he made his first $17,000 sale like the day he went back. He's selling a website to somebody for $17,000. That's not what he sells websites for traditionally, but it just happened to be that package. So somebody needed a website, and they paid $17,000. Now, I get it that a website's important to a business, and I know that that website can make that company money, but how does a website really rank in a person's life? I mean, when I hear that my kid can charge $950 regularly to just do a simple website for somebody, and I have lawyers who struggle with charging the right fee, more than $1,000, to free somebody from hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, or keep them out of jail, or keep them so they can keep their professional license, or help them get their green card. I promise you there's something wrong with this picture, okay? You should charge the right fee, not because I want you to make more money, but because it's going to help you help more people. Of course, which one comes first, the system or the staff? The system, yes, ma'am. Tamika, the system comes first. The system runs your business. So I teach you to do what I do, and I do what I teach you to do. I had to replace, I had 2 key employees leave this year. Were recruited by a billion-dollar company, my business manager and my chief technology officer, and they were both recruited for high-paying jobs that I couldn't compete with. Fine. So they left, and I had a choice. I could immediately go out and hire, or for the last 3 years, they've been running my system. So I chose to go back in, and my wife came in, and she took on the interim business manager job because she's a professional manager, has been for a year, so she helped me out with the managing stuff. And then I dove back in, and I dove in all the technology, and I really, many more hours than I put in my business for a long time. and redeveloped the systems, tweaked the systems, understood the systems, and now it's time for me to replace myself. By evidence of today, today the fact that the reason why the wrong the wrong URL went out, or the wrong call in if you guys called over to the other numbers, because I'm still doing it, right? I still haven't replaced myself because now I'm in the looking phase. So I've figured everything out, and I've got an assistant who helps, but a lot of this stuff I'm still doing. And so you have to build the system first and then bring the right person in to run it. If you don't know the system that runs your business and you want somebody else to build it, it's just not going to work. Before I hired John, before I hired the other, his son, Austin, and those are the two that were recruited, I already knew the systems, but over 3 years they morphed and they changed and they grew, and the business grew. And so I had to learn them again. So yeah, Tamika, we want to get the systems done first. All right, everybody. This is Richard James. I hope you've had a great time. I've had a great time today helping you build your practice one system at a time. Today we're focusing on the accounts receivable machine. We're going to do this every month. I'm going to put out some good quality information every month, and hopefully I'll be here for questions, and we'll give you the insights you need to build the practice of your dreams. I'll see you on the other side. Housekeeping stuff. If you're coming to Partners Club in a couple of weeks, make sure you get those hotel rooms booked if you haven't already, and bring your flip-flops because it's kind of warm out here in Phoenix. All right, enjoy the day, everybody. Make it great.
I hope you enjoy today's episode. I hope you learned something about a system that you could put into your law firm so you can build that law firm that supports your lifestyle rather than undermines your lifestyle. I hope that you feel like you're part of our community we call Entrepreneurial Attorney Nation. If you'd like to learn more about what we do around here, the best way to get started is to go ahead and go to our website, therichardjames.com. That's therichardjames.com, and request a free copy of one of our books, so that you can take the next step in learning how we can help you build your practice better, one system at a time.